Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to get started. We have quite a few people in, so we're just going to get started today. I just want to thank everyone, first of all, for joining us today for our first neighborhood discussion. Today, we are going to be joined by Jennifer Jakeway she's the Customer Service and Engagement Commissioner, what most of you may know as Engage Toledo, and Jim Molnar, who is our Director of Building Inspection and Code Compliance. And with them, we have quite a few code compliance inspector officers, and we have the supervisors from our Customer Service and Engagement Department. So we want to thank you all for joining us today, and thank everyone else for joining us today as we engage in this discussion, one of our first. I would like to just go over a couple things first. We're going to do questions and answers at the end. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And we'll ask those questions to the appropriate department towards the end of the discussion during the last 20 minutes or so. So the purpose of these neighborhood discussions are pretty much to share information, to educate our community about what our city departments are doing to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe to live in, to make sure that they are livable. And some kind of let you all know what the processes are when you call into Engage Toledo for a request in your neighborhood. So we also want to share information on how you can be proactive when you are calling in, proactive in your neighborhoods, and also just to make sure that the positive engagement is increased amongst our City of Toledo residents and our city departments. So we can get started. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ms. Jenny Jakeway from our Customer Service and Engagement Department, better known as Engage Toledo.
Thank you, Lucinthia, and just a quick shout out to everyone who made this possible. Our communications department, who are really our unsung heroes behind the scenes, who don't get the credit that they deserve. So just a quick shout out to them. I want to thank the Director of Code Compliance, Jim Molnar, his team, my team, Kalina Harris, the supervisor that's on here. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for all of you who are tuned in right now. So special shout out and thank you to all of you for taking the time out of your day, not only to register to be a part of this experience, but also to be the neighborhood community leader that you are. We wouldn't be here if it wouldn't be for our customers to serve. And it is with great pride and with great passion that I want to make sure that if not anything else, that you take that away today. We are here to serve you. And in Engage Toledo, we do that proudly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. I want to start off as we typically do in an outreach event if we were in person and do a little poll. So if it's okay, we'd like to do a poll with you right now. There's a quick pulse survey. Take a minute, fill that out. It's really easy, just a couple questions. I'm going to give you a minute to do that, and then I just want to see what the results are. Thank you. Give you a few more minutes. If those of you that are just joining us, we're asking that you help us find out how you prefer to engage with Engage Toledo. Just a quick poll, quick pulse survey, if you will. When you're complete, I believe our communication team is going to pull this survey and show it to us. Okay, great. Here we go, the results. So if I can scroll up to question number 1. Have you heard of Engage Toledo and have you used it? 75% of you have heard of it and used it. Okay, 21%, 6 of you have heard of it but not used it. That's interesting. That's good feedback. And 1 person actually has not heard of Engage Toledo. Well, great. We're glad to have you today. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll learn a little about Engage Toledo and you'll walk away being able to use it in the future. Number 2, did you know that Engage Toledo is available 24/7, 365? That is so great to hear that the majority of you did. I'm always surprised to learn that some people think that we close at the 5 o'clock business hour sometimes. So it's great to hear that the majority of the people here, who I would consider our ambassadors, to know that we are open at 2 in the morning on a Sunday and on a holiday if you need our services at the city. Number 3, have you downloaded and used the Engage Toledo mobile app? 38%, 9 of you said yes, you've downloaded it and used it. Okay, nobody has said that you've downloaded it but not used it. And then 15 of you have not downloaded the app. I'd be curious to know, and maybe you can put it in the chat, why you haven't downloaded the app. Is it just personal preference because you prefer to communicate in a different channel, or maybe it's the user experience? All of that feedback is great feedback, and we want to hear from you. Number 4, how do you prefer to request city services through Engage Toledo? 8 out of 20 of you, 40%, self-service via the website. Okay, that's great. 3 of you prefer self-service through the mobile app. 2 of you email. 7 of you call. Great. Well, I appreciate that. And I know some of you might still be joining. If you haven't taken the time to do the survey, feel free. You can put your answers in the chat. You can continue to engage with us throughout the rest of the presentation. That feedback is very valuable to us because as we continue to look for ways to communicate with our residents, we want to know what is your preference to communicate with us at the city. So we don't want to assume that we know. We want to get direct feedback from you. So thank you very much. Okay, so next slide, please, Mile. So a couple key facts about Engage Toledo that I would like to talk about. We're a team of 9 frontline customer service representatives with 2 supervisors who work 3 shifts, 24/7, 365, and we have a dedicated service mindset. No matter what time you call, we're here to serve you. And I can't stress that enough. We have people that work on the Christmas holidays. We have people that work 2 o'clock in the morning. If you wake up and you have water in your basement, you can call Engage Toledo at 936-2020, and we will enter that information into our City Works system, and our person will dispatch out to the sewers duty foreman who will go out and be a first responder. So please remember that. We can be reached 24/7, 365. And our team here in Engage Toledo is responsible for serving not only our external residents, but also our internal customers, which are our employees. We are a unified call center, and we assist all of our city divisions as well as our residents. And some people may or may not know that. We do dispatch for our water and sewer divisions. We do after-hour call-outs to our first responder divisions for our supervisors on call. We even take employee sick call-offs so that our field operations can be more efficient and they don't have to worry about taking that call off. We take that call off here in Engage Toledo. We enter it, it gets inputted into our CityWorks system, and we send an email out to those divisions. So we do a lot more than enter requests for city services. We handle general information inquiries, and we help our internal customers as well. We are the front line to the city. We may be the first and only time you interact with the city. So it's a lot of information that our team needs to know, but we do it, and we do it with great pride. As I said, our key takeaway, we're the front door, we're the front line. And what we are not, though, is the people that actually do the work. And so sometimes there's a misnomer that when you call Engage Toledo, we hang up the phone with the resident. we put on our safety vest, we get in our city vehicle, and we go out and fill the pothole. And that's not actually the case. We don't perform the work requested. We collect the necessary information required at the request of the division that we support. We provide the service request ID number to you as the resident, so you have that confirmation that that request is in our tracking system. We communicate any notes as a follow-up that the division leaves in the system to a resident if they call asking for an update. It's so important at the end of every call or when you're self-servicing, and if you self-report it, you get a 5-digit service request ID number. Please write that down. That way, if you have to follow back up on it, you can offer that to the agent. They can efficiently look up by searching that 5-digit number and expeditiously pull up that request and provide any information update to you. Again, we're the conduit for the city, for the division. We're the intake, we're that very first step. What Director Molnar is going to explain when he comes on is what happens after that service request is inputted into the system, using code compliance as an example, and what happens and what his team does as a follow-up from there. So I want to thank you all for, again, taking the time. I see a lot of familiar names here today, a lot of our Toledo engaged Toledo ambassadors. So I appreciate all of you for being here. I see a lot of new names. So if you haven't had an opportunity to invite Engage Toledo to an outreach event, please invite us. We're happy to come out. We're happy to put up CityWorks. We're happy to show you the back end and walk through the processes. We're here for you 24/7. We're the first step of the process. We're here to be your eyes and ears, and we appreciate you so much, and we couldn't do it without you. Happy to answer any questions at the end of this. And with that, I just want to say thank you very much. Jim, on to you.
Sorry, I had mute on. Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Molnar. I'm the Director of Building and Code Compliance, which includes Division of Code Compliance and Division of Building Inspection. Today, we're here to talk about code compliance and how that process works. So for the most part, while Jenny had mentioned Engage Toledo, they take all kinds of calls, whether it's for water, whether it's for potholes. The calls that then get directed to us, then get assigned to us based on, we're looking at like structural issues. We're looking at the, like sometimes if it's just high grass, that actually gets routed to another division, or like if somebody has an illegal set out. But as far as the most of the time is us getting a complaint about the condition of another property. If you guys want to keep moving on the slides. Okay, so our department, just our quick fact that I want to point out, that there's 125,000 properties or parcels in the city of Toledo, and we have 10 inspectors to inspect all these properties, which that equals out to about 1,200, 550 properties per inspector that we're looking to try to keep monitoring on and trying to keep up with calls on. Now, sometimes, there will be more calls in one area and not the other, but I just want to keep that in perspective, that while a lot of calls come into the city and a lot of calls come to our departments, it's our inspectors are out there and they have a lot of ground to cover. And I understand that it seems like the process itself, it seems like it may take longer than you want, but we don't live in the world of instant gratification like we do on our cell phones and like people want to see, because there is a process. But essentially, if you come in a complaint and it's a structural issue, or it's a vehicle parked in the grass, or it's a broken windows or an abandoned house, that comes to our inspectors, and what we do is we go out and we first send the inspector to do an investigation to verify that that is actually a violation of the property codes. And we document that. We prepare a letter, we prepare a violation letter. And if we go to the next slide, please. And historically, we would send a letter similar to the one that you're seeing right now, which has been kind of where the Division of Code Compliance used to be called the Division of Code Enforcement. And we're trying to take a step forward into this process where, yes, I mean, I don't, you know, there's going to be different groups of people where some people want us to go out there and just make them pay. They're mad at their neighbor. I've been fighting with them forever, and they want us to be as mean as it possibly can be, put them in jail, put them in, send them fines, just have the city go and clean up that property. But for that part, you can see in here, you know, our letter said, you know, this property is an immediate threat, and you can have a fine of up to $600, and you know that you can be charged criminally, and the city can abate this property and even demolish it at the expense of that property owner. I would say that maybe worked at one time in society, but we're trying a new approach. We're not saying that we want to let people get away with not being responsible owners, but we're trying to take a new approach. If we go to the next slide, and even with our notice to notify people where, you know, the new letter says, hey, just so you know, your property does have violations. We want to educate the public. We do feel that there's a lot of people that maybe just don't know there's certain rules to live in the city of Toledo versus another city they may came from or grew up in, or maybe these laws didn't exist when they at a different time in our lives. And you know, there's a lot of places out in other municipalities out in the country where, yeah, they don't care if you park your car in the front yard, but we do in Toledo. It is against the law. However, we again, so this is our proposed letter that we're hopefully going to be sending out here in the very near future. Is basically saying, hey, we did send an inspector out to your property. We did find violations, and hopefully, you know, just maybe even notice that we were out there, and that was enough to get you to straighten up your property and clean up whatever issues we found. But essentially, it's not that we're trying to put you in jail. We just want you to fix the problem. We want you to address the issue. And so saying if you fix it, we're really hoping to create a dialogue, create a partnership with these property owners, and our neighborhoods. And you know, if you need more time, you know, reach out. I mean, it's serious. The way that this new letter is you're going to end up talking to Engage Toledo, who can put you in touch with the inspector, and you can discuss if you need more details. But most of the time, there's going to be notes in the case that's just going to say, you have a vehicle parked in your front yard, you have a fence that's falling down, you have gutters that need repair and replaced, and if you know, within reason, we can even give you an extension. We really just want to have the conversation with you. Again, we're partners, and that let's see what we can do to come up with a plan. Now, yes, if you're going to call and just argue that it's not illegal to have a fence falling down, or it's not illegal to park your car in the front yard, we're going to let you know that it is, and that if you continue to do so, then we'll have to go to the next step. But mostly we want to develop a dialogue with everyone and see if we can figure out a plan to get this in compliance for everybody, for yourself, for the neighborhood, for your home. A lot of the things that we talk about are, you know, gutters and windows and doors, and I don't mean to make it too simplified, but it's just like we had a healthy homes initiative here recently, And in order to have a healthy home, it's almost like just having a healthy person. You know, you're going out in the cold, you want to have your hat, your gloves, and your boots, and your coat, and that keeps you from getting sick. And we want to try to really educate people of what the things that you need to do in order to have your house from getting sick. Trying to be preventative and taking care of these properties so that they last a long time. This is the most valuable asset for lots of people. And again, we want to just try to put everybody on notice that these are things that you should be watching. I just saw one thing in the chat where 3 days is not realistic to find a reliable contractor. And yes, I understand. A lot of the 3-day notices are for things like high grass or moving a vehicle, where if it's something that involves a contractor, those are the 30-day notices. And also, like I just said, it's a matter of reaching out to us. Let's get in communication. Let's have a conversation and tell us, how much time do you need to find a contractor? Now, don't say it takes 6 months to find somebody to come cut your grass. It's got to be realistic from both sides. So if we go to the next slide, we do have this flyer that we've been putting together for people just to understand what good home maintenance is, also just to understand the main things that we do find violations for, what is blight, what can be done to remediate blight, and just well-maintained properties lead to happier, safer neighborhoods. And this is something that if anybody wanted to get copies of, I believe it's on our website. But and these can be, if you do ever want to have like a conversation with your neighborhood, this is something that is just good home maintenance, what to do, what the things to keep a track of, and this could be something that is not confrontational, just passed on to a neighbor. And it's not just having a conversation with the city, but it's also having a conversation with the neighbors. I don't know if I have time to keep up with all the chat stuff. Are there any processes or procedures? I think we're gonna have to go back to the chat, you guys. If we just get through this, and if we go to the next slide, just give everyone an idea. This is more as far as, what can you do to maintain your property? Regularly inspect your property for signs of wear and tear, damage, code violations. Keep your property free from debris, overgrowth, vegetation, rubbish. Ensure that your building's exterior, including roof, siding, and windows, is well maintained and in good condition. Keep sidewalks, driveways, walkways clear of snow and ice and other hazards. Dispose of trash according to local guidelines, meaning that you got to bring your trash cans in within 24 hours of being picked up, and you can't put them out the night before, and they need to be in the containers. Maintain your lawn, mow it regularly. Address any weed or pest issues. Replace broken fixtures such as lights, fences, or gates. Ensure that the property's address is clearly visible. That's important because if there is an emergency at your house, that the emergency services are able to find your house so that they can come in and help you. Regularly clean gutters and downspouts to prevent water damage. Yes, this is what keeps the water from coming in your house and causing long-term problems that are eventually very, very expensive by being more preventative. Versus having to spend tons of money doing the property maintenance saves lots of money in the short term compared to lots of money in the long term. And if we just go ahead and go to the next slide, this is another list of just some more of the common code violations, which we already kind of talked about a lot of these. The exterior property maintenance, peeling paint, vehicles parked in the yard, accumulated trash, stairs and porches. That's a safety. That's a safety thing. You want your porches to be safe. If you're walking out on your porch, if you're climbing upstairs, you don't want people to fall and get hurt. If you go to the next slide, please. And general interior maintenance, I want to mention this a little bit, even though we don't normally come into the interior of homes, unless it's an emergency situation. But also looking for, peeling paint. There are lead issues that we don't really, the city doesn't, at this point, we have a lead law that's kind of on hold, but it's still something as a homeowner, you want to be aware of and get tested if possible. Broken windows, cracked windows, damaged heating system, keeping common areas clean. It's just damaged floors. This all things that they're affecting your health that you want to clean, that eventually can affect the health of the people living in them. Make sure you have your smoke alarms, around the house, and make sure they have the batteries, new batteries in them. Plumbing, making sure that it has hot and cold water and not leaking or clogged, and make sure the toilet is secured to the floor. Electrical, same thing. You want to make sure that there's not missing cover plates, missing. Make sure that if you're renting, there should be an outlet in the bathroom that's GFCI rated, and you should never be using extension cords as permanent wiring. If you have something that's there for intended for a long term, you should not just be using extension cords for those. It's just not safe. If you go to the next slide. So I wanted to show this to everybody to see how many. These are 72-hour violations. Again, these are like brush and graffiti, auto parts in yard, stagnant water, junk, debris, trash, and litter, which is our biggest one. We have 4,182 different violations that we have documented and sent notice to the property owners. Tall grass and weeds, 3,521. Vehicles parked on the lawn or the gravel, that's 1,085, and then just inoperable vehicles, another 1,189. For a total of about 15,000 plus 15,500 just in the last year. And if we go on to the next slide, I do want to mention this is just real quick. If for some reason you do get a letter, we do again, we first encourage you to reach out to us and we can have that conversation. But there is an appeal notice, which is in the Toledo Municipal Code. However, the appeal notice is for if you believe that the violation just doesn't exist, and that you've been wrongfully accused of a violation, or that you're saying it isn't against the code. And so that's the appeal process. I just want to make sure that people understand this. The point here is that you don't, and it costs $50 to do this, and you have to do it by money order or cash. And it's not necessary to do this unless you really, really want to fight the fact that you think you shouldn't have to move your car in the front yard. If you want to just call us and ask for an extension and ask for more time to get somebody to give you, get a contractor to help you, call your friends, call your family, and say you need till the weekend to get this cleaned up, or maybe even two. That's where you can just contact us and we can have that conversation and put a plan together of a timeline of when it can be addressed. Go to the next slide, please. These are our 30-day violation notices, which was mentioned earlier, that these take more time. And this is where, it's got chimneys that are falling down, fire damage to properties, foundation issues, gutters, spouts, overhangs, plumbing, porches, roofing. These are more the structural issues that we do understand take more time. And the same thing, if maybe some of these things are something you can do over the weekend, get some help and do, but a lot of these things actually require permits to do, and you can't do them yourselves. And let us know. Let's say, hey, I need some time to shop around, to find a contractor and get some estimates, and we'll work with you. But I mean, at the same time, we're going to expect to see see that you actually sign a contract with them and then get a date of completion. Some of these contractors might be backed up a month or two, but if they show you sign a contract with them and it's something that you're not going to be able to take care of yourself, we'll work with you. So go to the next slide. There again, there is an appeal process for this as well. For the 30-day violation, we're mostly getting these when we have our properties that have been deemed candidates for demolition. And that's where we do have this is how we start that process. If you've been able to, if you responded within the 10 days of the notification, then we'll start the appeal process if the property's been deemed that it should be demolished. But if you miss the 10-day deadline, then there's a good chance that you're gonna need to file an injunction. However, we do have a process for that. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. Oh, yep, I forgot. This is so the code compliance has historically also issued zoning violations. We don't have as many of these because most of them do get covered with the 72 and the 30 days. There's some overlap here. And it's worth noting that the Plan Commission has actually also hired some of the inspectors themselves. So we are transitioning some of these duties over to the Plan Commission to issue their own violations. But again, these are, like probably the highest one other than other, because a lot of the zoning issues are more complex, special use permits and things like that. But again, this is our biggest one in here would be the driveway has not been improved with dust-free material. That means people are just putting down stone and using it as a driveway. And if it wasn't there 30 years ago as a stone driveway, you're not allowed to just add stone in it and make a driveway at your house. So that's our biggest one with the zoning violations. So if oh, I thought we had one more slide before this one. Yes, okay, that's the one I was thinking. So I don't know if everyone's heard, but there is a demolition program now at the city of Toledo where we have about 1,000 houses or so that we started in 2023, demolishing houses that we tried to find the worst of the worst. And we've got a grant to demolish these houses. And the idea that it will clean up the neighborhoods. It's mostly abandoned properties that are dangerous for people to go into, definitely dangerous for people to live in, and the hopes that by getting these houses out of the neighborhoods, it's a reverse broken window theory, because blight does attract blight. And so by removing these houses from the neighborhood, it cleans up the area. It brings in more light. It brings in with property that's easy to care for, and ultimately we would want to see the neighbors wanting to buy up these lots after the house is gone. However, we are aware that some of these houses may be able to be saved, and we do have a process where if somebody wants to try to save their house and or if they were able to take possession of these houses, that we'll go through a process where we do a safety inspection. You do file an injunction with the courts against the city to try to put the demo on hold. Again, you do the safety inspection. We determine what all permits are required to try to bring the safe property back into what is safe for a human to live in. Our stance has been that it's not okay just to paint the outside of a house over flaking paint and make it look pretty just for a year until it starts falling apart again and secure it. We want to bring these houses back so that we have places for people to live, and we are doing that. We encourage that. And but there is a process, and we do require that you show that you have some financing and you are willing to pull the permits that are required, and that you do have estimates and you do have a plan. And we will set, we have, it's not something that's going to take 5 years to do. It's something that we're hoping to be able to do in 6 months, but we can discuss that and see the progress after the 6 months. And I want to say there are probably a good 40 houses now that have been brought up and that are beautiful now, and that are either ready for people to move into, or people are living in them, in safe houses that they're proud of. And so I just wanted to, I guess that's most of what I have. We'll probably cover a lot of the other stuff under questions, but I do want to mention real quick, I'm not keeping track of the time, but this all said, people ask, well, I called Engage Toledo, I've called this into the city, 2 years ago, and still nothing's happened. And I just want to tell you all that I understand that frustration. There is a process that we have to follow. So we issue the violations, we send the warning letter, and if nothing happens, then we are limited into what we can do. We can send a fine, and we can send that property owner to court, to housing court, and we can issue more fines, and we can and so forth. But I completely understand your frustration, because a lot of these properties are owned by LLCs. A lot of these properties are owned by out-of-state people. A lot of these properties are owned by people that have deceased. And it is just as frustrating for us when there's only so much that we can do. And so I want everyone to believe that our inspectors here are out there, they're doing the work, they're documenting this evidence, they're using every tool we can possibly think of to try to hold these property owners accountable, that are just blatantly ignoring the rules. But at the same time, they're very, very compassionate when we do have people that call us and need more time and want to try to work with us to come up with a plan, to try to come up with a solution. So if I guess that's where I just kind of want to leave it, and we'll go with the Q&A session from here.
Thank you, Jennifer and Jim. We really appreciate that. That was very thorough. I hope everybody online has a better understanding. I thank you for your questions and your comments. So let's kind of get to some of these questions that you all posed today. First question is that I want to ask comes from someone who wants to know about whether or not there are programs out there for low-income residents who may need help with more expensive repairs that are needed to their home. And yes, there are some programs out there. You can, I know our Housing and Community Development Department has a rooftop program. We also have a revitalization type program that can help with some remediation things. Some of our funding is not available at this time, but you can also reach out to different organizations like NeighborWorks, Mommy Valley Habitat for Humanity. They also have programming. East Toledo Family Center has programming for people who are seniors that may need help with some emergency issues in their home. You can reach out to those organizations to get help with some of those larger things that need to be fixed in the home. But I think the key is to call the inspector, call Engage Toledo, get in touch with the inspector so that you can have that conversation first, and reach out to those organizations so that it gives you a little bit more time to take care of those issues. Someone wants to know, and this is for you, Jim, what is the process for charging an owner whose home has to be demolished? Does the owner really get charged, and what does that look like? How does that process look?
Yeah, sure. So, so the cost of the demolition, which let's say on average is about $10,000. That's with utility kills. That's for disposing of the material from the house that has been torn down. It's grading the property, seeding grass, planting grass, and grading the property, seeding it, and so forth. So all those costs are kept track of, and it does end up being charged as a special assessment on the property tax bill. That said, I just want to be honest here, and this is what I get in trouble for all the time. A lot of these properties are properties owners that are out of state and have walked away from the property, and we're never going to see them again. They bought this property as a real estate investment. They got some kind of, equity loan on it, and they're just sitting on this property. They're never going to pay the taxes anyway, but it does get charged against the property taxes. At that point, it becomes a lien on the property and eventually could end up back in foreclosure. But if there is the case that somebody wants to hang on to the vacant piece of land after the city has done the demolition work on it, to abate and make the property into compliance, that property owner would need to just keep up with their taxes or be on a payment plan to get that paid off.
Thank you. So one of the questions is, please highlight any strategies to increase home ownership, attract new businesses, improve public safety, and enhance community engagement in the neighborhoods. So one of the things the Housing and Community Development Department did this past summer is we hosted a home ownership fair. It was a citywide fair. We had close to 300 people attend, and the whole goal of that fair is to help people with the knowledge that they needed to become homeowners. We had some breakout sessions that talked about how to get a loan, what it takes to become, get pre-approved. We had lenders that normally work with our down payment assistance program that hosted those. We also had NeighborWorks do some financial management classes. And we offered $10,000 to a winner to help that person with down payment assistance, which they will be able to use within 12 months of winning that money. So that was our focus this year. We always are focused on helping folks obtain home ownership. So another thing that we do in the Housing and Community Development Department is we have the Toledo Neighborhoods Capacity Building Institute, which helps small nonprofit organizations, small community organizations that maybe aren't nonprofits yet, maybe they aren't 501c3s, but they aspire to be, so they can make a better impact in their neighborhood. So we are putting funding into that, and that program actually starts in October, and we have 15 organizations that will be a part of that Capacity Building Institute. One of the other things that you can definitely direct yourself to on the city's website is the 10-year comprehensive plan. That plan really discusses the city's outline for making our neighborhoods not only safe and affordable, but also economic development as it pertains to our neighborhoods. So that is a great plan to kind of read over. I know it's long, but read it over and see what the city has planned for the next several years to benefit our citizens here in Toledo. Another question that came up was, are there any processes or procedures that are being implemented to ensure that code violations are not being disproportionately assessed against low-income homeowners? Jim, I'll hand that question to you. But before I hand it to you, just to kind of and there's more to that question. He said, said differently, are there processes that the city is looking to implement to address problematic rental property owners like absentee landlords or out-of-town owners to avoid the brunt of code enforcement coming down on struggling homeowners. So I guess I'm reading that question is how are the homeowners that are living in Toledo, are they giving any, I don't know, slack, so to say, versus those landlords that are kind of out of state, out of city, and may not be addressing their property needs and their tenants for that matter, like they should. So Jim, I'll hand that question over to you.
Okay. And so I'll try my best to answer this. We are trying to be more strategic in how we are focusing on our properties, and we do take it into account that of who that property owner is. Like I said, I mean, I guess you can look at it two ways. Like if we're just talking about if there's more enforcement in one area versus another area, you could look at it, are we trying to find more violations in low-income areas, or do we need to find more violations and educate property owners in low-income areas? At this point, we really, like I said, we try to be strategic, and ultimately it's, if somebody is reaching out to us and we're having a conversation and we're coming up with a plan, and we want to work with our property owners, I would say I mean, if there's somebody from out of town that's saying that they don't have time to come to Toledo and address their properties because they're out of town, that's not an excuse. You know, they own properties in Toledo, and they're renting this property to somebody that's working in Toledo, that does live in Toledo, and don't just tell me that you're in some other state, so you don't have time to come to Toledo and fix it. Versus the couple that, for whatever their situation is, and this is their house, and they've put every dime that they have already into a house to try to live in it and make it a home for the, you know, it's not so much anymore, I guess, but you know, at one time, like the American dream was to own your own home, and that's all they're trying to do. We are for sure going to address that differently and try to work with that homeowner. And while we might not, code compliance doesn't have a pool of money to give you to fix your house, if we're having that dialogue and we having that conversation, and there's a solution somewhere on the horizon, then we'll work with you on that. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you, Jim. There are some specific questions in the chat. Those questions will be answered at a later time. They'll be directed to the department that can answer that question. So if there are any specific questions in here, just know that we're not ignoring you. They will be answered by the department that can better address that question. So is there any legislation, is there any current legislation being discussed to address outside investors who are taking care of their property, not addressing the issue affects our property value? Another question that kind of relates to this is there like a landlord 101 type of education that's being set up by the city of Toledo? We have been talking about that. We have a tenant landlord manager, and she has been kind of working on some things to kind of get that landlord 101, because some landlords don't know what their responsibilities quite are, especially if you're a landlord that only owns 1 or 2 properties. You might not know what your responsibilities are as a landlord. So we have been talking about possibly creating some sort of education platform for them to learn more. As far as legislation to address outside investors, I'm not really sure that that exists right now, but we are aware that the city of Toledo is over 50% rental based. Addressing outside investors may be something that involves more than just the city itself. So I don't know if Jim, if you have any feedback on that, but I'm not sure how that's being addressed right now.
Right, so I've been told, I have not verified this, but I have been told that in the past, the city of Toledo has tried to pass legislation that puts different rules on out-of-state investors and requirements and so forth. And that I believe that legislation actually passed, but then the state of Ohio came back and it was challenged up through the courts, and it was ruled unconstitutional through the state Ohio Supreme Court, I think. But this is my disclaimer is this is going off of what I've been told. And so we have tried to pass laws in the city of Toledo like that, but I'm told that the state of Ohio stopped us from being able to implement said rules.
To answer some of those questions, how will we know? How would your answers get funneled to you? So we have everyone's email address. We will be saving this chat, so we'll be able to get your answers to your questions to you because we do have your email address. Okay.
So apparently we went too fast, right? I apologize to everybody talking too fast and not taking the whole time. Here we go.
Yeah, I think we've addressed most of the questions that are general questions. Some of these questions are more specific, and some of them aren't related to residential properties. So today we kind of wanted to address the residential issues. So I think that we've kind of addressed most of them.
If I may, Lucinthia, there was one clarity that I wanted to offer, and if I can ask Kalina to get on camera to help with the explanation. There was a good question asked earlier on about a resident reporting an issue through the mobile app versus calling in and wanting to know, or maybe making a comment about not being able to report everything through the mobile app. And that is very intentional by design. And I think it's important for those that are on this call today to understand, because again, you can help us help your neighbors, help your family members, and everyone else to understand why we do what we do around this process. And Kalina, if you don't mind, if you will, it is specifically to why not all of our concerns are available for citizens to self-report through the mobile app and through our customer portal, and why they might have to call some issues in. Thank you.
Yeah, so we don't have every single type of request that we have exposed on the app because some of them are simply just emergencies. We want you guys to call in so that we can get somebody on it and send somebody out there as soon as possible. And we're not always able to do that if it's being reported through the app. Now our representatives here at Engage Toledo do monitor every single request that comes in through the app, but their first priority is always going to be, that caller in the queue and being able to take care of what it is they're calling about as soon as possible. So the requests that come in through the app are not always seen right away. And so whereas a phone call, we talk to you within, a couple minutes of you calling in, you may hold in the queue for a little bit, but we will get to you as soon as possible. And then that way we can address whatever issue it is that you have, right away. So.
Thanks, Kalina. I think just to tag on to what you said, I think the other important note is when their concerns are listed on the website through the portal and the mobile app, they're not department centric, they're resident centric. And so that is designed again with intention that you don't have to know what department an issue is associated to. I think one of the questions in the chat was, who handles potholes? You don't have to know who handles potholes, but if you can find pothole concern and answer the Q&A, I think there's an average of 3 to 5. Be assured that that pothole concern is gonna get routed to the inbox for roads and bridge maintenance to go out and fill that pothole. And so sometimes residents might answer a question or skip a question or get it misrouted. So that's the benefit of Engage Toledo doing the oversight to helping ensure it gets to that division timely. And I just thought it was important to note because it tied those two concerns and questions together. So I appreciate that, Kalina. Thank you.
I just saw one of the questions and they got answered in with the question and answer where people, I don't know if this was the intent of the question, but how can trash piles get removed from front of homes? I don't know, again, so I didn't know if this was the intent. But I wanted to remind folks that as part of our trash pickup, you do have, is it a monthly pickup that you can do bulk pickups, which you can schedule with Republic. They have them come out and pick up bulk items from your home for no charge. So not everybody knows about that. And then again, that goes back to us trying to just educate our property owners and our residents that is a service that's out there that's included as part of your trash pickup.
Thank you. And thank you to all the positive feedback that we're getting in the chat. Thank you for the comments and the compliments about the team. And again, if you have a community meeting, invite Jim and I and Lucynthia and Kalina and all of the wonderful code enforcement inspectors on this call to it. We'd be happy to come. There was a question asked about strategy and engagement. This is one example. The Ambassador Academy is another great example. But we are always willing to come out and speak to any group that will invite us. And sometimes we even pop in when we're not invited because we hear about it. So we want to continually spread the word. We want to do good. We want to help you help us, and we appreciate everything. So thanks, everybody.
I would encourage all of the neighborhood associations, organizations, groups to register their association on the city's neighborhood association website if you haven't already done so. If there are any changes that need to be made to your association's information, you can email me directly and my email information will be put in the chat and also at the end of this webinar. Also, just giving some information about the Toledo lead ordinance. Please go to ToledoLeadSafe.com and you'll find out what that ordinance is about, and also what a property owner who owns a residential property that has a 1 to 4 units or family childcare home, what your responsibilities are to make sure that that place is lead safe, that home, that property is lead safe. Again, I'm into the Toledo Together Comprehensive 10-Year Housing Strategy Plan. And I encourage everybody to go on the website and kind of read through that. And we also have a For Toledo that's a draft plan for land use for the city of Toledo. I think it's open for public comment, so you can also go on the website and read through that as well. Now, if you want to give any City of Toledo employees a kudos, whether it be somebody that you engaged with, that you talked to when you call through Engage Toledo, an inspector that is inspecting your neighborhood, you can always go to customer service at toledo.ohio.gov and give that employee kudos. It really does mean a lot. There is going to be a survey that we will ask you to fill out just to make sure that you learned something today, that the information that we were hoping to convey, we conveyed it. And also neighborhood discussion input, that will be on the website as well, so that we can get feedback on what you want to know for the next neighborhood discussion, because these are going to be driven by your comments and what you want to learn. about our city departments or what you want to know about our city departments. So we want to thank you. Thank you so much today for coming out and spending your time with us today. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jennifer. And we hope you have a nice evening.